Do you remember the first time you saw the car you've always wanted? For my customer, it was a '67 Nova at a car show when he was a teenager. From that day on, he had to have one. It took almost 10 years to find the right car, and when he finally did, he thought the search was over. Here's the truth, it wasn't the Nova he had dreamed of. It looked good, but it was slow, handled bad, and was always braking. Meanwhile, his buddies were out in modern cars that blew his away. That's when he realized he just didn't want a classic, he wanted one that could actually hang. So he came to me to develop a build plan. He liked my approach and build style, so we met to go over his car, budget, and goals. He wanted fast and drivable, so we knew we needed at least 500 horsepower, reliable, so I decided we needed a brand new modern drivetrain. A car capable of hitting the track if he wanted, so we had to get rid of all that old suspension. 4, a car that would be comfortable, so we'd have to choose suspension that would be smooth and sporty. And because he wanted comfortable, we were going to have to do a bunch of work inside the car to ensure he'd have a car that would be enjoyable for long distance drives. 5, he wanted safety. A definite brake upgrade was in order. Upgraded seatbelts and brand new instrumentation so we can monitor all systems and keep them safe. 6, a car that exemplified modern build styling, creature comforts, elegance, and that wicked stance that he'd always wanted. So I got to work putting together a build plan, one that took into account what he was truly after, a drivable car, a fast car, a bona fide muscle machine that he could drive anywhere, anytime, including long distances, and be capable of hitting the track if he wanted. With plan in hand, we set out to build a legitimate pro touring car. We built this car at my shop, but I also offer this build plan service for people like you who may want to install the parts yourself or take it to your local mechanic to get it all dialed in. Check it out in the links below. So the car's been done for a few months now. It's in here for its first follow-up, which is so important when you build a car. Working out every last kink and nuance is what ultimately results in a dream car. The last time I had seen this car was the day that he picked it up. He was taking the car on a road trip, a 4-hour drive each way to Monterey with his wife for a buddy's wedding. That's a strong move considering that was going to be the car's first real shakedown. Well, I got a couple of texts the next day. The first, made it safely to the coast, smooth sailing and comfortable drive. Yes. The next one said, ended up finding a Cars and Coffee event at Laguna Seca and everyone was loving the car. And the paint was looking incredible in the sun. What an incredible feeling of pride and fulfillment that must have been. Cruising for miles in comfort, showing off his wicked pro touring Nova, the dream car he had always imagined. That must have been one unforgettable weekend for him. Fast forward to now, 1,500 miles of seat time later, we've only got a few minor issues. The tranny shift's a little stiff after driving a while, kind of tough going into fourth, so we're gonna change out the brake-in fluid. Normal brake-in procedure stuff. There's a minor leak from the rear end area, which actually turned out to be the vent. Super easy fix. A little water seeps in at the corner of the windshield because it wasn't heavily glued out of respect for the fancy paint, and the parking brake needs adjustment. Pretty easy fixes, I'd say. I love it. That's all it needs, no problem. We got this. And you're wondering what we did to get this car driving so incredibly well and reliably? Here's the breakdown of the build plan. 1, he wanted a drivable car. So I recommended that we go with a modern drivetrain, fuel injection, and an overdrive transmission. Because he was building a car for the long haul with no intention of selling it, we decided that anything related to reliability had to be brand new. 2, he wanted a fast car. To achieve that, I decided a GMPP Crate LS3 525 was going to be his best bet. We coupled that with a Tremec 5-speed because he always wanted that car to be a stick. And isn't that the best way to get the performance feel? And a narrowed 9-inch rear end with posi and 370 gears, coupled with a TCI torque arm rear suspension, coilovers, plus DSE mini tubs, 335 3019s, and we got a car that could really hook up and go. All products mentioned are linked either in this video or in the description below. 3, he wanted a car that would be comfortable to drive long distances. So I recommended a myriad of creature comforts, including aftermarket seats that could recline for improved comfort and a tilt steering column to improve ergonomics. A vintage air system was installed, providing AC to keep them cool on hot days and a strong heater to warm them on cold days. And an amplified stereo system so they could enjoy their favorite tunes as they cruise down the road and you could hear it over the road beneath them. He wanted a car capable of hitting the track if he wanted. So I recommended a full upgraded front and rear suspension from TCI, total cost involved if you don't know. With tubular arms, coilovers, sway bars, and frame connectors, he'd be able to carve through the canyons and all the cones of the autocross track. Get grip and go on the drag strip and cruise around town comfortably too. Getting the spring rates just right makes all the difference in the world. People often get this wrong and end up with a car that's way too stiff. We succeeded in getting the proper mix of performance, handling, and drivability out of this one. 5, he wanted a drivetrain with 500 horsepower, yet reliable and economical. So I recommended the GMPP LS3 as previously mentioned. These kits can be ordered as a Connect and Cruise package that comes complete with the engine and transmission, plug and play wiring, a pretty solid tune, already programmed to run right, and an extensive 24-month, 60,000-mile warranty. Paired with the proper overdrive transmission and new gear combo, we're getting about 18 miles a gallon. I'd say we definitely are ticking all his boxes. 6, he wanted safety. So I recommended a 4-wheel Willwood disc brake kit, coupled with a Hydro Boost brake assist so the car can totally stop on a dime. 3-point seat belts, so they're held in the car just right in case of a crash, but not too tight like a racing harness that constricts you and your movement. And for safety of the engine, we added Dakota digital gauges so you can make sure you can keep an eye on all the systems and keep everything running well. How it turned out? Performance, legitimate 11-second car that corners like it's on rails, but drives down the road straight and smooth. Horsepower, 525 horsepower. That feels like more than you might imagine when it's in a little light car like this. It's not too heavily overpowered, so it actually hooks up. Trust me, it'll definitely plant you back in the seat. Cost, based on original budget, doing more than one upgrade at the same time and using quality parts that complement one another saved him over $20,000 in the long run. Because he didn't want to totally break the bank, and because the car was pretty solid to begin with, we were able to manually strip the car and keep all the original side windows, regulators, and mechanisms in place. So often I see that owners, painters, builders just tear everything apart with no real plan, and that gets expensive. Inevitably, he spent a bit more than he initially thought he'd wanted to, but like most builds of this nature, the nicer the car got, the more he wanted to keep adding upgrades and details such as leather interior, 3-stage paint, and the forged line wheels. Lastly, we always knew the car would be getting repainted, but we opted to do the major mechanical work first. Since the car was so solid, we knew it wouldn't need sandblasted and or rotisseried, and honestly, that wasn't in the initial budget. Each car and each person's situation often requires a different approach, or requires me to approach from a different angle or in a different order. Then we jumped in and we painted it. Then rewire, gauges, AC integration, stereo system, etc. And then interior last, for this reason. At the end of the day, this isn't just about horsepower, shiny paint, or fancy parts. It's about a guy who refused to settle for good enough. He had a dream, he made a plan, and now he's living it every time he fires up his Nova and hits the road. That's the difference a build plan makes. Instead of throwing money at random upgrades, he invested in a vision. And now, he's got the Pro Track Nova that he always imagined back in high school. A car that looks wicked, drives like a modern machine, and turns heads everywhere it goes. This customer is living a someday right now. And if you've been sitting on a project, dreaming of your own someday car, don't wait another decade. Start with a vision, then get a build plan. Click the links below, because settling is always the first mistake.